If you want a booty, you got to eat in a surplus and not a deficit. So you can't expect to have a butt and be in a deficit. Hey everyone, and welcome back to It's Pretty Simple. I'm your host, Nikita, and It's Pretty Simple is a podcast about fitness, nutrition, fat loss, and I just try to give you as much advice as I can to put it all together to use in your own journey, and hopefully you can understand the science behind things and put things into action to get the results that you want. All right. So today we're diving into one of the most important concepts in strength training, progressive overload. If you are lifting weights, trying to build muscle, or just aiming to get stronger, this is the key to unlocking your potential and actually seeing progress. But there's also more to it. I also want to address one of the biggest misconceptions out there before we actually dive into this topic, especially amongst women. The fear of lifting heavy because the belief that it will make you bulky. Are you somebody who thinks that way? Well, spoiler alert, it won't. In fact, avoiding heavy lifting and sticking to light weights with higher repetition is probably one of the main reasons why so many women do not actually see the results that they want to see and they're working so hard in the gym for. So I'm going to explain why lifting heavy is so important and show you how you can test your strength and apply progressive overload to make some real progress in your training and finally see that toned shape that you want and not bulky. So whether you're new to lifting or you've been stuck at a plateau for a long time and you're not seeing any changes, this episode is for you. It's going to give a lot of information. When I get to the strength part, test part, make sure that you grab a pen and paper so you can actually understand how to do a strength test to know where you're at. So let's get started. So one of the most common things I hear from women is, I don't want to lift heavy because I don't want to get bulky. So let's dive into this. It's a myth. It's a full-on myth. Lifting heavy weights will not make you bulky. And here's why. So in order for you to actually build significant amount of muscle mass, it requires three main factors. So one is lifting heavy weights, which you should be doing, but lifting heavy weights consistently, eating in a calorie surplus, which means you consume more calories than you're actually burning to build a lot of muscle. And the third one is high testosterone levels. And on average, women have 10 to 20 times lower testosterone than men. Our bodies are just not built like that. We do not have the amount of testosterone needed to get big and bulky. So what lifting heavy will actually do is help you build lean muscle, which is what gives you that toned look and the athletic look, not bulk. Think of it as strength training for your muscles and bones. You will look stronger, leaner, and get more defined without adding size and getting really big. Adding so much muscle mass is only possible if you're actively trying to do that. So when I say that, I'm saying that if you see women who, have bodies of a man, they are most likely on something. So for a woman to get that big, they're probably on growth hormones or on steroids. Now, if you follow women on Instagram who have nice quads and nice glutes and, it's nice and big but not bulky, and that's the toned look you're going for, you need to realize that those girls are lifting insane amounts, but they're not bulky. They're feminine, they've got the curves, they've got the muscles. They're not taking anything extra. All they're doing is eating in a surplus. If you want a booty, you got to eat in a surplus and not a deficit. So you can't expect to have a butt and be in a deficit. And you need to be lifting super heavy. Take me, for example. I am not bulky at all. You can see me, I'm sitting here. I lift very, very heavy. So I deadlift like 95 kilos. I hip thrust 140 kilos. That's my 1 rep max. And I'm not bulky. My butt is not coming out. In terms of upper body, I can bench about 40 kilos. So that's quite a lot of weight. I can overhead press 30, 35 kilos. Again, a lot of weight, but I'm not bulky because I don't have the testosterone needed to get that bulky. So yes, when you're seeing these women, they are training consistently, they are eating a ton of protein, they're eating in a surplus, and they're lifting super heavy. None of these women got those booties or those quads from doing light weights and high reps. So this is a big misconception that needs to change with women, because if you really want to build that lean muscle, which you really need to have when you've crossed 30, when you're 40, 50, you're losing more and more muscle, so you really need it. So this fear of getting bulky needs to come off, because it's just virtually impossible for our bodies to do that unless you're taking something extra to help you. So for a real life example, I do discovery calls with a lot of people that follow me, and I had a call with this woman just last week, and she was like, I need something new because I train hard and I never feel challenged. I always leave the gym totally fine. I push myself a lot and I always do more because I feel like I have more in the tank, but I still don't see any results. So I asked her, when you say you do more, do you mean you add more weight or more reps? She said, oh, I add more reps because I don't want to get too bulky. So she's obviously hit a plateau a long time ago. And then she said, I sometimes do 25 to 30 reps and I still feel completely fine. So she's not feeling exhausted. She's not feeling any stress on her muscles or a challenge to her muscle. And this is the exact issue. So many women are doing high reps with low weights. It's fine for endurance, but they're not enough to build strength or build muscle. If you are doing 25 to 30 reps and you still feel fine, you are not challenging your muscles. If you want to build muscle, you're not going to be able to do it that way. You need to be applying progressive overload. So this brings me into an important distinction. High reps and low weights is a no. Heavy weights and low reps is a yes. So let's dive into what the science says. So a study published in the Journal of Strength and Conditioning research compared two groups. One trained with light weights and high reps, so 20 to 30 reps, and the other group trained with heavy weights and low reps. So they were doing about 4 to 8 reps. And what were the results? The group lifting heavy weights saw significantly greater increases in both their strength and their muscle size. Why? Because heavy weights create more mechanical tension, which is the primary driver for your muscle growth. So more tension is what will drive muscle growth. So high rep, low weight training doesn't provide the same stimulus. So there was another study published in the Sports Medicine found that women benefit just as much as men from heavy resistance training in terms of both strength and muscle growth. And because of the hormonal difference, us having less testosterone than men, women do not develop the same bulky muscle mass that men do. What's the key takeaway here? To see results, you need to lift heavy, challenge your muscle, you need to build a stimulus, and try to do progressive overload as much as you can. So we're going to come into what is progressive overload. So why is progressive overload the foundation of strength training? Progressive overload is the gradual increase of stress placed on your muscles over time. Now without it, your body is going to adapt to your workouts and progress stalls. So think about it. When you first started going to the gym, if you were using 3 kilos for bicep curls and you were doing 12 reps, but it was hard to do, 3 weeks later, you're still on your 3 kilos and the 12 reps are coming so easy and you think, oh, I'm just going to increase my reps here. This is where you're wrong. What's happened is your muscle has already adapted to the 3 kilos because you have built the strength to be able to push that 3 kilos beyond the 12 reps now, which means you need to increase your weights, not increase your reps, because you need to be putting stress on the muscle. So by increasing your reps, yes, you will put stress on your muscles, but not in the same way as you would if you were to be increasing weight and decreasing the reps. So basically, to keep progressing, you need to increase the demand, which is the weight on your muscle. So this can be done by adding more weight and increasing your reps, but to a point. Sticking to 6 to 12 reps is usually good for most goals, especially if your goal is fat loss, but nothing beyond that. You can also do this by reducing rest time, which is basically adding more stress on your muscles without actually taking the weight up. And you can also do other things like tempo training. So I already talked about most of these concepts in another episode, which I will link just up here. But yeah, progressive overload is basically, think about it as leveling up in a game. You need to increase the challenge to keep growing. If you're not challenged, you're not going to keep growing. So muscles react the exact same way. And the best way to apply progressive overload is to first figure out where you're at what is your strength baseline? So I'm going to explain to you exactly how to test it. So if you want right now, grab a pen and a paper and let's explain how this works. So to apply progressive overload, you need to know how much weight you can safely lift. Safely meaning good form and no swinging or none of that, right? Good form lifts in order to also prevent injuries. So that's where a strength test comes in. So I'm going to go over it step by step. Now here's how to do it. We're going to start with a 1 rep max test. So your 1 rep max test is lifting your maximum for 1 rep. So you cannot lift more than that at that weight. 1 rep only, and that's it. You have no more in the tank. So that's the 1 rep max. So how do we do it? So you start with a weight you can comfortably lift for 8 reps. For example, 50 kg. Okay, if you know you can do that for 8 reps, we do 1 set at 50 kg for 8 reps. Then you're going to rest for 2 minutes. Set 2, you're going to add 10% more weight, for example, 55 kg, and you're going to do 6 reps. You're going to rest again for 2 minutes. Your set 3, you're going to add another 10%, so 60 kg, and you're going to perform 4 reps. Again, rest for 2 minutes. You're going in for set 4, where you're going to add another 10%, so that's a total of 30, 65 kg, and perform 2 reps. You're going to rest for 2 minutes. Your set 5, going to add, so you're attempting your 1 rep as a clean rep. Now we're at 70 kgs. This is an example. And then you're going to attempt your first attempt. So you're going to do a clean rep with perfect form. And if you feel like you still have more in you, rest for 2 minutes. If your first attempt felt good, you're going to increase. Now you're not going to increase a whole 10%. You're just going to increase a little bit. So let's say 2.5 kilos, and then you're going to try again. So basically, the goal is to get to the number where 1 rep is all you have in the tank. So if you started at a weight that you know you can do 8 reps for, you probably need maybe 2 or 3 attempts at your 1 rep max to find that number. And that will be your maximum weight for 1 rep of whichever movement you are doing. So this one is really good to use for your compound lifts, like your squats, your deadlifts, your bench press, your overhead press, your hip thrusters. This is what I use them for. So yeah. Now coming to the 8 rep max. 8 rep max is something I use with beginners because when they're going to the gym for the first time, I'm sticking with dumbbells mostly for beginners. And also if you're doing more accessory type of work, looking at your 8 rep max is a better way to gauge out your strength if you're not doing the compound lifts. And also, obviously, if you're not comfortable testing your 1 rep max because that's quite heavy, you can stick to either 5 rep or 8 rep. I always choose 8 reps for beginners. So you follow the exact same steps. So you're looking for your heaviest weight at 8 reps. So in this case, you're going to start at, let's say, 15 reps, then 12 reps, then 10 reps, and then 8 reps. And again, you can attempt 2 to 3, depending on how far off you are. But again, if you're increasing 10%, it should work fine. If you're a woman, normally your upper body, you'll probably figure it out much quicker than your lower body. So I always recommend the starting weight for the 8 rep max should always be a little bit heavier on the lower body side and a bit lighter on the upper body side if you are a woman, because we are naturally weaker on our upper bodies and stronger on our lower bodies. Once you know your 8 rep max, you can estimate your 1 rep max if you are too afraid to actually do that test. So what you need to do is take your 8 RM, multiply it by 1.255, and that will give you your estimation of what your 1 rep max would be for that movement. So you don't necessarily have to do your 1 rep max to know the number. Do your 8 rep max and then just calculate it with that formula. So both of these tests will give you a baseline to calculate your training weights, and you'll be able to apply progressive overload in your training. So once you know your baseline, here's how to apply progressive overload into your plan. So you want to add weight gradually. So you increase the weight by 2.5 to 5 kg when you can comfortably complete all your reps. So for example, if I'm in week 1 of my program and I have decided that I'm going to use 4 kilos for my bicep curls, 4 and 4, that's 8. And my trainer has given me a rep range of 8 to 10 reps. So I'm using my 4 because that is my 8 rep max, for example. And then the first week I only managed to do 8 reps with it. The range that's been given to me is 8 to 10. So the second week I'm going to attempt with the same weight to push to 10 reps. If I manage to do 9 reps, that's great. I will keep the same weight for the following week and I'll push to 10. Now, once I manage with these 2 4 kilos to push to 10 reps, it means the week after, I need to take the weight up. So I'm going to go for 5 and 5. And again, I'm in the rep range of 8 to 10. So I'm going to try and push to 8. And then you're going to basically try to complete all 10 reps with that weight before you take it up. So once you manage to hit the 10 with whichever weights you're using, you take the weight up. Does that make sense? I hope it makes sense. I'm trying to explain it as much as clearly as I can in the way I do it and how I make my clients do it. So how do you know what you are doing and how much weight you're using? You got to track your progress. If you are not keeping a log of your weights, you are not going to know what's going on. It is so important to do that. And it's a good idea to also kind of recheck where your strength is at every couple of months. So I would say like every 6 to 8 months, do a 1 rep max test again or 8 rep max test again to know where you're at. And obviously you need to stay consistent. Your progress takes time. You need to focus on small, consistent improvements. If you are inconsistent, so let's say you have done a workout this week and then you skip 2 weeks and then you go to do it, obviously you're not going to be able to take the weight up. So in order for you to actually make improvements and to actually see growth in your muscle and to see changes, you need to be consistent. You need to be getting the same movements in on a week-to-week basis. This brings me to one more thing. When you are constantly changing up your workouts every single week, you don't see results because there's no progressive overload there. You know, if 1 week you're doing bicep curls and then you do some other program, I know I really like bicep curls. I keep using that as an example. If you are doing, let's change that. If you are doing goblet squats and then the following week you decide that you don't want to do goblet squats anymore, you're going to change it to another workout. Maybe you're going to go and do a leg press on a machine. You can't really see progressive overload there because you're not going to be able to track it if you keep changing what you're doing. Yes, you're using the same muscle group, but it's always better to keep the same movements for at least 4 to 6 weeks. And then you can change it up once you've actually increased weight and added more load to those movements. Certain movements should just stay on your plan. At least that's my recommendation. It's very subjective to each person, but me as a trainer, there's certain movements that I always keep in my clients' programs, and that's the compound lifts, your squats, your bench press, your deadlifts. So yeah, in order for this to actually work, you need to be doing it on a weekly basis, increasing your weights on a weekly basis, and stay consistent with it. You're not going to see a change if you're just doing this stuff at random. Logging as well, extremely important. If you log, it's also a good idea to log because as women, depending on where we're at with our cycle, things can change. So you'll notice that a week before your period, you might feel a little bit weaker, whereas the week of your period, you're much stronger. So this happens to some of us, not all of us. But it's a nice way to also understand, what changes our body has when we're going through different phases of our cycle. So if you are logging your weights and you notice that this week you've actually had to drop down your weight and you're not been able to push as much, it's probably because you're getting your period. So it's a good way to just track and see what's going on. But yeah, to conclude this whole thing, lifting heavy is not going to make you bulky. It's going to make you strong, lean, and it's going to make you confident. It's going to finally help you break that plateau that you are struggling with. High reps with low weights is not going to help you build strength or muscle, so stop doing that. If you want the results, focus on lifting heavy and doing fewer reps. Do progressive overload. It really is the key to your long-term success, and it's going to give you progress no matter what. Test your strengths, challenge yourself, and keep pushing forward. I'm going to put the strength test in text in the description if you want to copy that as well. And yeah, remember also, eat your protein, because if you are pushing and doing so much work at the gym and you are following progressive overload and you are not eating enough protein, you're still not going to build muscle. So these two go hand in hand together, progressively overloading and eating adequate protein. If you do try the strength test, let me know how it goes in the comments below. And remember guys, fitness is a journey. Don't fear the challenge. It's okay to be uncomfortable. That's what happens when we're trying to grow even our muscles. In life, when you're trying to do something and trying to get better and you're trying to grow, we feel uncomfortable, we feel out of our comfort zone. When you put load on your muscle that you're not used to, you're going to feel uncomfortable, but it is what you need to do if you really want to start to see progress. All right, guys. Well, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you have any questions, please do ask me in the comments below. And if you are listening to this episode on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, or any other platform and you are not following it, I would really appreciate if you could hit subscribe or follow. And make sure if you enjoyed it, give it a like and share it with a friend. Thanks for tuning in, guys. I will see you guys next week. Stay strong, stay fit, and go build muscle. You're not going to bulk up.